Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Isaac, for having me. No, this is so fun. I love that you all are putting this together. And yeah, in addition to the wonderful and lovely things that you said about me, I'm a mom. I've got two little boys under 4. I'm a wife. My husband is going into his second year of medical school. Um, and so we are all about in my household, how can we have the most efficacy possible with everything that we're doing? I run a very successful sales coaching organization, and I'm able to do it working part-time hours while also being a mom because we don't waste time with things that don't work. And happy to share as much of that wisdom with your audience as possible as well. So here to be of service and excited to chat.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Super salesman and super mom. Love it. So could you describe like your typical daily workflow, right? What's the first thing you do when you start your day?
When I start my day, you want before work, you want during the actual work day, not like morning routine, right?
Well, either or. Like, what's the,
Okay.
a lot of people listening, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and figure
Oh,
out
no,
what's
no,
in their
no,
feed
no.
and do whatever, right? How does that differ to yours?
Yeah, no. And so this is actually great because I think that's probably the worst thing you can do when you first start your day. So a lot of our teaching, and I know we're going to do like practical tips today, which I'm more than happy to do. And I love that. What I will say, Isaac, is a lot of what we teach our clients is around neuroscience and identity rewiring as well. One of my own personal experiences was I went from being stuck at the same level of sales for over a decade to 10xing within 6 weeks and turning my annual income into my monthly income. And we teach a lot of that process now in our programs. And so one of the biggest things I have learned is that your results will never supersede your identity. And so first thing in the morning, it's so easy and tempting to pick up the phone and be like, okay, what came in last night? And let me try to put out fires. And we get addicted to it, right? We get these dopamine hits from looking at our phone and seeing what came in. But those early morning waking like minutes when you first wake up, those are actually an extremely powerful time to reprogram your subconscious. Your brain waves are slower. Then it's similar to if you're under hypnosis. So what I teach my clients to do and what I do for myself is I actually have, for whatever your sales goal is, you want to think about who's the person who does that. Like, what are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What are their actions? And actually map out like a day in the life of you with your end results accomplished. And then from that place, we have them record it. So we call it power affirmations. We have it recorded on their phone. Now, this does involve picking up your phone, but you're not checking text and you're not checking email or voicemail. First thing in the morning when you wake up, you want to listen to that script, those affirmations, those statements about who you are, how you operate, how many sales you have coming in every month, how money works in your life. And I hit all areas of life with it too, not just business. But you've got this window of time. This is right when you wake up and then also right before you go to bed, where your brain waves they're slipping into, in the morning, you're rising up from theta to alpha and then to beta. So when we're in those slower brainwave states, we can program our mind really fast to accomplish what we want. And because our results will never supersede our identity, this is why it's so important. Like, you can have the best technique in the world, but if you don't feel like someone who's successful or feel like someone who makes $1 million a month or makes $1 million a year, it's not going to work. There's neuroscience behind this. So that's the first thing I do is I focus on identity. And I start with gratitude, right? I appreciate the day. I appreciate, I focus on gratitude. I listen to my script. I do some study. I do reading. I meditate. I exercise. Then usually our kids are coming down the stairs and we're working with them. And then from there, I go into my work day a couple hours later.
That's awesome. So I imagine that's a pretty significant shift in such a short period of time. right?
Yes.
And you mentioned having a person, or having examples of where you want to be. What was the trigger for you? Was there an individual or something that was said that made you think overnight, hey, I've got 6 weeks and I'm going to 10x this thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll try to tell it, because I know I want to be mindful of our time. I'll try to tell a very abbreviated version of this. There was a period in my life about 4 years ago where I was reading a book by Bronnie Ware, and it's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. I don't know if you've read it or anyone else has read it, but Bronnie was a hospice care worker, and she sat with people on their deathbed. And she shared that there are 5 most common regrets that everyone shared before they died. And the number one regret that people shared was, I wish I had the courage. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to me rather than what everyone else expected of me. And at that point in my life, things were good. I was living a life where things were good, but I had such bigger aspirations for my life, Isaac. I don't know if you can relate to that. I've been stuck at the same income level for over a decade. No matter how hard I worked, I always made low 6 figures. And I wanted to be able to do things with my life that required more than that. I wanted to be able to retire my husband, who was working night shift as a respiratory therapist. We had a 4-month-old son at the time. I wanted to be able to retire him so he could pursue his vision of going back to medical school. I wanted to give more generously. I wanted to speak on bigger stages. And I realized at that point in my life how much I had been what I call putting my life on layaway, like looking at other people having the success and the results that I wanted and saying someday or when it's convenient. And it was just this awakening of like, no one is going to come tell you it's time. No one's going to come give you permission. You got to stop waiting for something outside of you, and you've got to take control. So I made that decision. I made a decision in that moment. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it takes, what's required of me. I am done living a half-lived life. And I said, I want to experience the fullness of who I am. So collapsing the story significantly here, I decided to hire a mentor at that time who had the results I wanted. And this particular mentor was running a $3.5 million business in coaching with 3 little kids at home, working 2 to 3 hours a day while also being a mom. And I was like, I need to know what you're doing and how you think. The investment to hire her was petrifying. It was half of everything I'd made the year before. I didn't have the money. I was like scraping to try to figure out how to even put a deposit on a credit card. I thought, what am I doing? This is a terrible idea. I was the breadwinner for my family. I thought, am I putting us in financial jeopardy and ruin? But there was this knowing within me that I had to do something to so shake up my comfort zone of where I had been in order to even be able to pay for the coaching, let alone make any money on top of it. So I went in that period of time. It was kind of a dark night of the soul at first, where I was like, what have I done? This is a terrible idea. Every limiting belief about who I am, what's possible for me, how money works, how successful I can be. I was faced with every single one of those. And then simultaneously, the clock is ticking of like, you got to be able to pay the next bill. You got to pay the bills for the family, blah, blah, blah. But because it was such a pressure cooker of time that I was in, I had to come face to face with it. And so I went on a deep dive exploration of studying neuroscience, the power of the subconscious mind and how it impacts our results, identity work, money. I uncovered a lot of areas I felt unworthy around money, and I did the work to shift that and to literally develop a new identity and a new self-concept of who is the woman who does the things I want to do. And I started practicing being her and thinking as her and feeling as her before anything had changed. And then it was in that time frame, it was again from the point of decision to 6 weeks out of fighting every limiting belief I'd ever had, practicing being someone new. That's when everything changed. And I want to preface that too with I had spent 10 years before trying to figure it out. So some people are like, oh, I'm really working at it. It hasn't happened in 6 weeks. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. There'd been a decade before that of struggle and trying to figure it out. But when I really was like, no, this is changing and happening, what I've learned is that your must will move mountains, and we're willing to get wildly uncomfortable from that place of this has to change. And then we collapse the timeline typically of how those results happen. So does that help a bit?
Yeah, well, I think everybody can resonate with significant milestones of that journey, right?
Yeah.
The uncertainty, and it sounds like you found that clarity. And so each day
Mhm.
you find that clarity again. You remind yourself of why you're doing it. You've got the framework now to build upon or rely on. So
Mm.
walk us through that framework. What's an example of a way that you'd prioritize your tasks, right? Or what
Mhm.
productivity techniques do you try to remind yourself of? How do you practically go about your day now that you've started off on the right foot?
Right.
You've got a framework to look at.
Yeah.
How do you seize the day?
Absolutely. So I think one of the keys with this, Isaac, is we talk about a concept called decision making from the end. So whatever the end result is that you want to be experiencing in your sales or in your business, I think you should build out your tasks and build out your SOP or your KPIs from the end result. So forget in this, like, let's say right now that there's a business owner who's listening and maybe they made six figures or multi six figures last year and they want to do seven figures this year, right? So instead of just continuing to do the same things you did that got you your old results, think about it this way: as a seven-figure CEO or entrepreneur, what are the things that I'm doing every single day? And build it out from there. So we want to go to the end, and this is part of the power of mentorship and studying under different people. But what are they doing every single day? And we want to build out our daily, weekly, monthly method of operations from that place. So for me in the morning, and this is how I always do it. So for me in the morning, I'm doing my inner work first. But then when it comes time to work and to be in front of the computer, I think no one's going to be surprised by this, right? But I'm focused on what are the revenue generating activities and what is my core role within the company, that I and only I can do. So for me, it's being visible. It's doing interviews like this. I do a weekly live stream. I'd actually gotten away from that for some time, and then I was like, hey, if I look back on it, I don't know. Over 50% of our clients have come in from live stream YouTube podcasts. I should probably be doing that again. So focusing on, again, what creates the actual results. I talk about a concept of efficacy over effort. So I think a lot of times we get in this rut where we're like, well, I'm just going to do the same thing every single day and I'm going to grind it out and I'm going to make X number of outreaches and I'm going to say the same thing to every person. And it's like you're a hamster spinning on a wheel, right? Can you get to where you want to go with that approach? Maybe, but it's probably going to take you a long time and you're probably going to be frustrated and tired and depleted. And you're probably wasting a lot of energy on things that don't matter if you're just in a check the box mindset. You want to look at what actually has moved the needle for me in the past. And then again, if I want to go to the next level, what are the things that that person is doing every day that maybe I'm not doing every day? So something else for me right now is recruiting and team building and bringing in more people to take over. I used to do all the sales follow-up myself. We're bringing people in to help with that. So again, you're going to need to evolve and become a new version of you and do different things to get to another level. At the end of the day, it's like, are you checking the box with your activities? Are you doing things that move the needle? And regardless of whether somebody's listening to this and they're an AE or they're maybe they're a solo entrepreneur right now or a CEO of a unicorn, right? It's like you got to look at what really moves the needle in your role and doing that first, right? But the key is do the inner work in the morning to connect with the vision of where you're going. And you'll find there's a lot more power behind every action that you take because the energy in which we do a thing determines the outcome of a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. There's we're hearing you talk. I can almost see who you're seeing. Like it's really clear that you've got this really clear vision of this path, right? I think
Mm,
a lot of people struggle to try to find their mentor, try to
mm,
find their really clear person or criteria for what they should look for. But when I was 10 plus years ago, I wrote an article on how you should always have multiple mentors. I think it's just so
mm.
important to have people who you can look up to and say, just tell me the thing. Could
Yeah.
you maybe help people figure out A, what to look for in a mentor, but B, practically, how do they go out and find one and see once you've found them, then what?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think, Isaac, the beautiful thing about today Now, I'm going to preface this with, I think you should invest to a level that stretches you for your mentors. So what I was going to say is the beautiful thing about today is you can learn so much for free online, and you really can. And there are people that just may not be accessible right now. Like, let's say that you want to be mentored by Richard Branson. That may or may not be accessible, but you can go online and you can study and listen to his interviews. And the key question to ask yourself is, how does this person think? Don't ask for a silver bullet. Don't don't ask for just one strategy. Ask, how does this person think? Because the way that they think is at a very different level than how you're thinking right now, and you want to learn to practice that. Something else that I look for is this person living life the way that I want to live it? Because there's a lot of people out there who are financially successful by most people's standards, but maybe health is failing, they don't have any relationships, they're achieving success in an energy that you don't resonate with. So this is really important. So that's part of how, when I hired, and I'd worked with many, many mentors before, and I've worked with many mentors since, but when I had that quantum leap experience, it was like the mentor I hired at the time was not only achieving a great deal of business success, but was also really committed as a mom. And I had my first son, and I was like, I need to figure out, I'd been working 60, 70 hours a week prior to that. I was like, I need to figure out how to grow my business, but I need to also have more time for my family. So let me find someone who has the results I want in all areas, and let me learn to model off of them. Let me learn how they think. I was with it was interesting. I was working with a client this past weekend who's a billionaire. And I was like, I want to just take a minute to ask you your perspective on business and abundance. And one of the things he shared that was so powerful was, I help my competitors. He was like, he's very abundance mindset. I help my competitors. And a lot of people would say that they wouldn't do that, right? Because they're more in scarcity mindset. Well, guess what? That way of thinking has gotten him billions in his business. So we want to learn how someone thinks. We want to find a mentor or mentors, to the point of your article, who live life and do business in the way we want to do it. I do think you should invest in a way that's stretchy, that gets you way out of your comfort zone to work with a mentor or mentors. That's part of why I know I quantum leaped so fast, because I was so uncomfortable. If I had just been like, oh, I'll study you online or I'll listen to your podcast, wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have taken it as seriously. Invest in yourself. And it's really a declaration, not is the mentor worth it, but are you worth it? Because you're going to get out of it whatever you put into it. So the question is, do I think I'm worth it for the transformation? And then once you're working with that person, again, try to learn how they think. Learn how they see scenarios. Ask them the perspective on things. Ask them why, and then practice applying that frame of reference, that paradigm, to the areas of your life, sales, business. I learned, I've worked with a lot of amazing mentors, but I'll often have an experience where they're like, why are you spending time on that? Or why are you doing that task in your business versus someone else? I'm like, I don't know. I just thought that's what I've always done. Again, we got to get out of the box and see things differently. And that's the power of mentorship.
It's so true. Investing enough time, but also money, to find that the perfect alignment of values is very, very underrated. So I love it. So now that we've identified the person, we found the person, we've engaged the person, we've invested in the person, can you walk us through like a recent project or something that you've done in a recent activity or initiative with your team or customers where a mentor has supported you through to the end?
Oh, this is a good question. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we are, I'll give one example. We are launching a consultant certification right now, and it's our first ever. And I'm of the same mind as you. I tend to work with different mentors for different things. So sometimes people say, oh, I'm already working with a coach, I can't hire someone else. I think about it like, you're going to have a personal trainer helping you with your fitness. You're going to have a chef or someone come and prepare meals for you. It's all around health and fitness, but it's different people with different specialties. So one of my mentors has a great deal of experience in a lot of the technical financial side of things, the legal side of things, like all the things that I'm a visionary. I'm a classic entrepreneur. I'm a visionary. Like that type of thing is not my, it's not my jam. It's not my background. It's not my expertise. I'm great at making money. I love making money, but then the back end management piece, just not what I love. So we surround ourselves with great people who do that, right? And so this person has been really instrumental in helping me ask different questions of myself in terms of how it should be structured and just bringing up things I hadn't thought about before. Legally, financially, all of it. So again, you want to have someone who can just help you see what you're not seeing and be open to thinking differently and way bigger for yourself than before.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. Finding the mentor that will not only help you emphasize your strengths, but identify and you support the weaknesses or the things that you're
Yeah.
not so focused on, right? Really take an analytical approach to your mentorship.
Yeah.
This has been hugely helpful, Elise. I really appreciate you taking the time on the Mango Magic series. And I hope that all the viewers will get some value out of this, and there'll be some questions that'll come through afterwards, which we can share with everybody and your answers. But thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Isaac, for having me.